Welcome to Vibe Dance Music. Today I'd like to talk about the research video that I posted a few days ago. That video was geared more towards the music perception community, and because of that I wasn't really able to address a lot of the questions you all had when you participated in the study. So in this video I'd like to go back over some of what I said in the previous video, and then we'll get to answering the questions that you all asked after participating in the study. To start with, what actually motivated this study in the first place? The answer to that is that I read a paper called Scanning the Dial, where they found that people can identify musical genres in about a quarter of a second. So naturally, I asked the question, if we can identify a musical genre in a quarter of a second, how long does it take to identify a dance genre? Of course, as with any study, I had to do a lit review as preparation. It turns out that we can identify all sorts of musical features really fast. For instance, if you know a song, you can identify the title and artist in about half a second, and you can identify the emotion of a song in about a third of a second. And there's even follow-up research that says we make all of our identifications in about the first 3 seconds. So given all of that, I decided to set the experiment up in using something called a gating paradigm, which is where you start with very short clips and then you slowly increase the length of them as the study progresses. This caused a few folks to want to pull their hair out. But the hope was that those first 2 blocks, the 1-beat and 2-beat blocks, would only return random chants of someone associating a song with an expected dance. And then at the 4-beat block, we expected folks to start making accurate identifications, and we didn't expect to see much difference at the 2-bar and 4-bar blocks. However, we were kind of wrong on all accounts. Even at the 1-beat block, when folks only had about a half a second of music, the song and dance association was more accurate than random chants. Additionally, even at the 4-bar block, which is 16 beats long, we were still seeing improvement in the associations, which means that even 10 seconds in, people are still getting better at the task. They didn't level off at that 3-second barrier that we expected. And of course, that raises questions, which means more research projects. But anyway, that is why songs started off so short and kept getting longer as the study went on. Another thing that was brought up a lot was why participants were only allowed to select one dance when more than one might work with a given song. Well, there were a few reasons for this. One is that this is more indicative of what happens at a dance, right? Like you hear a song, you say, well, it could be a foxtrot, it could be an East Coast swing, I feel like doing foxtrot. You ask somebody to dance, and then y'all go dance the foxtrot. Now you could, on the dance floor, dance a little bit of foxtrot, dance a little East Coast swing, and bounce back and forth. It does happen, but it's more the exception than the rule. So for this study, we just said, let's let people only choose one dance, and then go from there. Of course, this also had the advantage of it made the math easier in the analysis phase. So there was also that. And of course, the big thing that everybody asked about, what was with all the samba? And so to understand how we set up the data, what we did was we went on Spotify and we pulled every playlist associated with one of the dances that we wanted to test, and there were 8 of them. What we didn't expect was that there is a musical genre that has started cropping up that is rumba, that incorporates the reggaeton rhythms that, in the West Coast swing community at least, we call samba rhythms. However, because of how playlists were selected, we were relying on the name of the playlist to make the differentiation. So if a playlist said, best rumba of 2020, we just assumed it was a rumba because we didn't have any other way to filter it out. Well, it turns out that reggaeton rhythm is becoming really popular in the musical genre of rumba, and that has kind of taken over the playlists on Spotify. And while I did expect to get some pushback from this, which I did, the reason that I decided to stick with it, one, was because if I go in and change out the rumbas that we had available with what I thought was a good rumba, I would no longer be testing participant responses against the data set. I would be testing participant responses against my opinion. And the other was that it provided the opportunity to bring up in the paper that dance genres really aren't the same thing as musical genres. Sometimes there's a bit of a disconnect. And in addition to all of that, there was one other thing that we wanted to study. It's a fairly common anecdote in the dance community that some songs only work with one dance, while some songs work with a whole bunch of dances. So I labeled those monolithic songs for those that only work with one dance, and polylithic songs for those that are multi-dance songs. We hoped that what we would see is a difference in how quickly people would reach consensus about which song goes with which dance, in a way that the monolithic songs would reach consensus faster than the polylithic songs. Unfortunately, that didn't come out in the data. We're going to be doing a follow-up study on that to kind of clarify the results to see if there really is something there, or maybe it's just all in our heads. We don't know. That's why we're doing more research. But with all of that said, I think that covers the bulk of the questions that folks had that I wasn't able to address in the other video. So if you made it this far and you like this content, please do like and subscribe. This is a channel that has sat dormant for a while with everything being in a lockdown. But now that things are starting to open back up, it's a little more motivation to kind of get this channel back up and running. And hopefully we can provide content that is both interesting and useful for the dance community. So until next time, stay safe and keep dancing.